Ready? Okay, we'll call the Tuesday, February 15th council meeting, regular meeting to order. If everyone would please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we have amended agendas. Everybody should have one. And if you, the first item on the is to approve the agenda as amended.
I move that we approve the agenda as amended.
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Second item on the agenda is the consent calendar.
Mr. Mayor, I'll move.
I'll second.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. D, open forum. This is a chance for public comment on anything that's not on the agenda. If there's an item on the agenda you wish to speak to, you'll be given an opportunity at that time. So is there anything that is not on the agenda that anyone from the public would like to address the council? Seeing none, we'll go into item 2, and that is department presentations. The Nisswa Police Department Annual Report, Chief Taylor.
Can you guys hear me? Good afternoon, everyone. This is your police department, and by now I assume everybody has met everybody up there except for maybe one. Suri is working. She's been going patrol. She's not certified to do any drug work yet, but she is getting acclimated to the car, to the office, to her new home, her new trainer. And I will give you updates periodically about how the training's coming. I'll let you know when certification has been obtained, and also keep you up to date as to how she's working out and what kind of fines she's getting and stuff like that. So you'll know if she's doing what we wanted her to do when we purchased her. But so far, so good. She's been in the office a couple of times. She's just a really nice, really cool dog. I'd like to think one thing about our department is everybody up there has a lot different interests, a lot different skill sets. And as a result, for a department this size, we are really able to investigate, pretty much any crime because we have the talent in-house to do it. We don't ask for outside assistance very often. And everybody here has their own special things that they like to do, and it really works well for the whole department, and it's in our diversity. I'd also like to thank Maggie for all the work she's done for us. She does a lot of support work, more than I even know a lot of the times, but the things that she does is invaluable, and she's been a huge asset to the department. I got to put on glasses. I can't see that far away. So these are the stats that we have. This is what we keep track of monthly. These are from our monthly reports. So as you can see throughout the year, for the year we've done 299 agency assists. We've had 2,833 calls for service. When you consider a call for service, there's really two ways that a call comes into our office. One is, a phone call or a assignment from dispatch, or the officer observes criminal activity on their own that they initiate the call for service. So you can see the two different components of that. Assigned calls are 1,113. Self-initiated calls would be 1,691. Patrol time is just the time that officers are actually on patrol. 6,412 hours. Follow-up time this is not an accurate number because officers were not recognizing things that they were doing as follow-up. That hopefully has been corrected, and you'll see that number in the future be much higher. Criminal citations are 16. Driving citations, believe it or not, is only 252. However, warnings are 1,673. So I do think that kind of indicates that if you had to get a ticket in Nisswa, you probably had it coming, because we are very generous with warnings. We're aggressive with the stops, but generous with warnings. 140 arrests, which is surprising to me. I remember years past, we've had 12 in a year. 153 medicals, 116 alarms, and 99,892 patrol miles. So we're putting on about 100,000 miles on our vehicles every year. So some of the enforcement items of interest are total drug arrests are 45. Total DWI arrests are 46. So that number that I gave you, if there was the additional arrests would probably be other things, warrants, domestics, thefts, whatever. 927 grams of meth, 26 grams of heroin, 893 grams of marijuana, 44 grams of cocaine, and the total cash forfeited for the year is $3,328, and we have forfeited 8 vehicles. Those will also change. New laws have come into place. Those numbers will probably go down, unless the dog has an impact on that number, which they very well might. So we provided some statistics for years past. I'm sorry, I'm supposed to do this, aren't I? Sorry about that. So if you can read that, you can see the differences in ICRs between 2016 and 2021. What is somewhat surprising is in 2016 and 17, we actually had more calls for service than we do now. I think there is a reason for that can be explained. Number one is the composition of the officers that we had. Number two is if you look down here at arrests, we had 140 arrests. And whenever there's an arrest, that would equate to less time on patrol. So therefore, less self-initiated activity. So if you have a police officer making an arrest, they're probably taking a good 3 to 4 hours out of patrol to complete booking, paperwork, and other duties that are tied to that. But everything else is, I would say, relatively consistent. Criminal citations are significantly lower. That, I believe, is probably due to the fact that we are not enforcing marijuana cases as much for various reasons. Most of which is sometimes if it's not a large amount, the BCA does not even want to test it for its validity of being marijuana. So that enforcement has decreased. You see the warnings, like I said, arrests are much higher. Medicals are fairly consistent as you'd expect, and so are alarms. And then these just kind of demonstrate the same thing. You can see this sort of shows that the ICRs have decreased through in 2018, 2019, 1920. That's somewhat had to do with COVID. We were doing less enforcement actions, and that had a slight impact. But you can see on the other side that arrests have gone up. So I would say that more than anything, the decrease in ICRs is a result of more arrests, if that makes any sense, just because it's taking so much more time to process the booking of prisoners. See, medicals are fairly consistent. We would expect that as well. Traffic citations, again, as I stated, we've been pretty generous, and it would appear that we're more generous than we used to be. Again, that probably has to do with composition of officers. At the time in 2016, 2017, they were quite aggressive on issuing citations as compared to now. So throughout the year, we have had some notable activity. Last year when I was here, I said my goal was to have officers go to every house in the community. We did, we pretty much did that within reason. I mean, I don't know it would be possible to do every house, but we did make an effort to visit every resident. And if we were not able to actually make contact, we did leave a flyer in their door letting them know that we were there, why we were there, and if they had any concerns, please contact the officer who was assigned that area. And we did in fact get several calls from people thanking us for doing that. And as a result, even there have been people that called in and only want to talk to their officer. So that's nice. I mean, people feel comfortable with somebody or feel that the officer took special interest in them. It's makes them want to talk to that specific person. So I'm happy about that. I think that worked out really well. The other thing was we did an open house, and that was, I was really reluctant to kind of do that. I didn't know how that would, if it really had any value, if it was going to be worth the effort, and it was. It was very well received. We had lots of kids come, and we also had a lot of help. And I'd like to thank Amber from Park and Recs. She assisted with some of the planning of it, and was really appreciative that she helped us out. We did receive, this has already been reported to you, but we did receive, oh, I'm sorry, that's the wrong thing. We did do, we called it coffee with a cop. Some people didn't like that term, so Roundhouse was not Roundhouse, sorry, Stonehouse was not Roundhouse. We weren't doing it at Roundhouse. We would, I wouldn't mind, but Stonehouse hosted that event, and we really appreciate them helping us. And basically we just bought coffee, and anybody that wanted to come and have a cup with us and talk to us could. We never didn't get any complaints. We did get a lot of positive feedback, and we did get people that did actually show up and to see and visit with us. So we'll continue to do that in the future as well. This has been reported that we received a firehouse grant for $48,868 for new radios. So we did purchase new portable radios and mobile radios for the squads. We gave our older radios, 4 of them, to the fire department. They requested to take possession of those to use them, so we gave them to them. The mobile radios have not been installed in the cars yet, but they will shortly. You're aware that we did purchase a dog, obviously, and the community has been really supportive with that. And we've had the Babinski Foundation has agreed to cover all the medical costs for the dog. So we should not have to pay for any vet bills or anything like that. And Barrett Pet Food Innovations is donating all of the dog food for the dog. So those would be two pretty big expenses that we would anticipate that we'd have that we will not have to be concerned for. So thank you to those 2 groups. We had talked about purchasing different items for the squad cars. It's hard to see on the video there, but you can see on the top little square there, that's a picture of a scene out in the dark, and then the one below is with the FLIR on, and you can see the person standing in the doorway, which you would not have been able to see otherwise. And also the purchase of the Noptics for the squad cars. And you can see that it just attaches onto the spotlight, and it gives you heat signature readings in a computer screen in the car. And we have 4 of those done, 2 to go. And thanks for the organizations that have helped with that too. Nisswa Lion Club, different community members have donated. Nisswa Legion have all been very helpful to us. We have participated in, actually it was great because Dairy Queen, Rafferty's, Chocolate Ox, and Northern Gifts and Sweets have allowed us to hand out a card to children, and then they can go get different treats and stuff from them at their leisure. So thanks to them. That's a really good community PR building thing for us in the younger community. So we appreciate that too. Is that what that is? Yes, sorry. We also were, this was reported in the news, we were, this is a result of the door-to-door contact efforts that we had done, and a family need was identified, and a lot of help was given to them to improve their quality of life in their home. I'm very proud of the officer, as Luke Hall, that took it upon himself really to mobilize volunteers and get help to help this family. And there were several people that, individuals that helped. Terry Walleen, John Ryan, Sean Bailey, and Justin, I can't even read, I'm sorry, Stanky. Yeah, so thanks, Mayor, and Fire Chief was involved, and it was really a good effort to see the community come together around people, especially around the holidays. So for 2022, we do have some challenges that we will need to deal with. One of the things that we were looking at doing was updating our rifles. We have done that, so that's done. We need to concentrate on getting our K9 certified, and that is anticipated to happen, I would hope, sometime early in the spring. We'll continue to do open houses. We're going to explore the possibility of working with a policy management vendor, Lexipol it's called, and I don't want to get in the weeds on it, but basically it is a company that'll help us just do our policies. They incorporate training for the officers for the policies. So in Minnesota, there's been a lot of policy limbo because of events. And if I think today on the agenda, there might be a policy. Is there or not? Yeah, there's a policy that had to be changed because of law changes. Well, if we were to work with this organization, they will they'll change it and they will push it out to us and say, do you want to adopt it? Yes, it's our policy, it's done. Then the officers will receive training updates where they'll be given a scenario on that policy and have to answer questions about it, so they demonstrate that they do understand it, and it's tracked that they received it, and you know, much less headaches as far as policies goes for the city. And one thing that I'm considering doing, and I have to kind of look into it a little more, but we need to be concerned about mental health for officers. So I've had a couple of ideas. I don't know for sure if they can be implemented or will, but I'm thinking about maybe having officers at the city's expense every other year go sit down with a psychologist. They can talk about whatever they want. If they don't want to talk about anything, they don't have to, but we will ask them to go and use it to however they feel the need. If they want to talk about things, we encourage that. If they need follow-ups, we will, help them with that. If they want to talk about fishing, they can talk about fishing every other year or something. But I'm still looking at how that will work, and I got to talk with some professionals about it and see how and if it can be implemented. But it's something I'm thinking about for the future, just to make sure that we don't have any officer crises. So this comes, I think that's something that we need to be thinking about for the future. And I'd also like to thank Kiki. She's been a great help to us. She's done some proofreads for me and grammatical error corrections, and I appreciate that as well. Do you have any questions?
I know we've been trying to work on retention with the officers and stuff, and if you were to assess the morale of your officers today,
I think good.
good, okay. And then I like that psychologist. I think that's a great thing to look into, because with family members that have been in law enforcement, there can be some, they deal with heavy stuff.
Yeah.
And a lot of them don't reach out. So I think it would be kind of nice if we look into that.
Well, there has been some, even in the area, there's been some premature retirements due to either job dissatisfaction or problems that officers develop that have gone beyond where they can be helped anymore, and now they're not officers anymore. So I think we'd like to avoid that and just create an avenue for them to talk to somebody if they want to. If we require that, if we require that they go do it, then there shouldn't be any hesitancy to say, well, I don't want to get help. They're being made to go, maybe they can take advantage of it however they feel necessary at the time. And I just think it's a good idea. I don't know what you guys all think about it, but it's something we probably have future conversations about. No questions other than that?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I just wanted to say something about one of the officers, Officer Connor. The night of my incident that laid me up here, he was one of the first ones on scene. He even beat the ambulance there. And I don't know if he hadn't been there to help them, I don't know if I would be here talking to you tonight. So I just wanted to say thank you to the Nisswa Police Department and Officer Connor in particular. You did a great job.
Thank you for saying so, and I'm glad to see that you're feeling better too.
Yeah, I just had one question too. As far as the arrests, what's the majority of the type of arrests that we encounter here?
There's mostly drug and or alcohol, combination of them,
Yeah.
and and warrants and stuff
Okay.
too. So,
Yeah,
Thanks, Chief.
thank
Appreciate
you.
it. Yep.
thank you.
Next item, report, City Administrator.
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening, members of the council. I have a couple of items later on in the agenda, but just a couple of updates. Reminder for the public that we have a vacancy on the city council. Reminder if anyone's interested in expressing interest, that those letters are due by February 25th. Staff is working on our 2023 strategic plan and budget schedule. We'll be meeting tomorrow as a group to go over kind of the preliminary outline for that. And then I will bring that to the council next month, just so you have an idea of what we're looking for a timeline with our budget and our strategic plan, which will also include recommendations for our ARPA funds as well. So we can hopefully start to create a path for that. And I'd just like to echo Chief Taylor's comments about the public safety mental health, and hoping that we can incorporate that also into our fire department, because that is also an important piece to that, as sort of a whole picture for the council. That's one of the league's legislative priorities as well. And so there's just a lot of really great conversation happening right now. And we'll talk about that during our strategic plan process. But just wanted to thank him for bringing that up and mention that as well for our fire department members, along with our police. That is all I have, unless there are questions.
No.
Thank you.
Thank you. City Attorney.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I don't have anything for you tonight, just but except to quickly tell you that Gull Lake Trail land acquisition appraisal work continues. I don't know if we'll have anything for you considering it March's meeting, but certainly possibly April's.
Okay. Thank you, Tom. City Engineer. Okay, on to new business. Approved temporary liquor license. License and temporary beer license for the Brainerd JCs April 29th, 30th, Run for the Lakes.
This event is back in person after a year, maybe two of a hiatus. The proposal, the plan is similar to prior years that we've seen from the city side, so no concerns on that end. I don't know if anyone's here from the event. Are you Lizzie? Hi, welcome. I don't know if you wanted to comment or anything. No, no obligation unless the council has questions, so. Okay.
For our routes and traffic control.
Great. Any questions? Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I would approve the temporary license, liquor license and temporary beer license agreement for the Brainerd J.C.'s on April 29th and the 30th for the Run of the Lakes event. I move that we approve that.
I'll second.
Second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Right. Now all we need is the snow. Yeah. Okay, second item is the approve the Chamber of Commerce 2022 event list. I appreciate getting it up like this. This is nice.
Mhm.
Good. Pam, Callie, and I worked hard on
Yeah,
getting the
I
summary
did.
together, so I thank them incredibly. They did a great job putting this together.
Well, it also will help, like, the fire department, the police department, anyone that has to get involved in it, so they got a heads up. And
Something I will note, the last page just includes kind of a draft overview of the estimated costs for the event with the garbage, porta potties, things like that. This is something that I did include some funds for in our current budget, which is different from prior years, but I felt that was important in order to help partner with the chamber on these events. So it's not a significant dollar amount, but that is something we're working towards doing. But any questions, feel free for either myself or Pam.
I really appreciated this too. It was very easy to understand, so
Good.
I'm good.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the temporary liquor license as presented.
oh, we did that one, Don.
No, F2?
Now we're on number 2. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Excuse me, I'm reading off the wrong page. Yeah, F2. Yeah, this is my first time back after a while. You got-
Well, then I would like to make a motion then that we go ahead and approve the Nisswa Chamber of Commerce event list for 2022.
Second,
Further discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Downtown sound system. This is for council discussion. Did you want to address this, Jenny, or does some?
I'm hoping Pam will intro the topic, and then I also included your future wish list. So if you wanted to maybe just talk a little bit about the things you've been hearing about the sound system from businesses and from your chamber, we'll start there.
Hello, everybody. Pam Dorian with the Nisswa Chamber. Downtown sound is the only thing when we ask guests or the retailers in town, what could we improve on in an event? This is brought up over and over, like, I wish this side of town could hear this. I wish that, or some people miss turtle races. For the parades, they don't hear it except for right in front of the gazebo. It's just brought up over and over and over again. As we looked into it, there was safety things that we can offer with the downtown sound. I think there was downtown sound at one point, and I'm not sure what happened to it, but it's no longer working. So I looked into it with Music General. They did the sound for the turtle track for us this last summer, which is top notch. A lot of compliments on that. Looks like it would be about a $20,000 venture. I had asked Music General, but they're on vacation, if I could get a solid quote, and then I'm looking for somebody to get a second quote on also for moving forward with this. But I think as a whole town, it would benefit us. You know, if we wanted to play music over the holiday season, if, you know, 15 minutes till fireworks, grab your spots, and the countdown for retailers to turn the lights on at City of Lights. Like, I see a lot of benefits to it for everybody.
Mm.
We are premier events. They should hear it,
Yeah.
you know? So my goal is to get 2 quotes. Move forward to it, see the longevity, see the maintenance costs of not only installing it, but down the road. Jenny and I have spoken about the 20-year plan, 10-year or 20-year plan involving it, but I would like to see it by June. I would like to see it by May. And it's doable. It's a Wi-Fi system that again is top notch. They're not going to leave us with anything less than good quality. And it seems kind of easy to do.
Do we know how, when you're looking at from what you've been talking to Music General on, how many speakers can be hooked in a series? Do we know how far it will go up and down Main Street, or what are our limitations? What can we?
I know that the plan was to put 6 speakers. The initial plan was 6 speakers that went from Main Street Ale House and then have to bounce back and forth diagonally across the street and would take it all the way to Nisswa Square.
Okay.
So that would, Nisswa Square, where there is sound right now, it's a 1 speaker sound and it doesn't, we can't get it to work with the system. We could before we put the turtle sound in, but once we did that, it eliminated that speaker. So that's what, I mean, it points out into the square so everybody over there would hear it also. I think it can be added on to, but that's all we would have needed. I don't know if eventually we would go down towards the Legion. I can find out if it can be added on to.
I guess that for me, it would be, you know, what's an immediate desire for something along this line, number one, and then can we add on to it? Is it upgradable, you know, so that we can, as new software comes online? I know we talked as well, Pam, and it's designed to be outdoors, so it's
Yes.
weather, it's weatherproofed and stuff. I understand that. I can only guess, you know, is it, you know, will there be, I would assume they'll know once they start to do this, whether there be interference with other people's signals of any kind or whatever. You know, whatever the technology does or doesn't do to itself.
Yeah.
Can't keep up, so.
Yep, I'm waiting. I asked all those questions and I'm just waiting for the answers back,
Okay.
which I'll present once I get, and then also get a second.
I do know that I've spoken to the chief about it, Chief Taylor about it a number of years ago now, but about having something, should you have a parade downtown or should you have an event downtown? You get a lost child, somebody finds, you know, little Johnny or little Susie wandering around, they come to the chamber, you know, you can announce things that would be, you know, very helpful. That could be very helpful in a situation like that. So.
Yeah. Right now we run around and put signs out on all the white posts around town, but people don't see them. They blow down.
Yeah.
It just isn't an ideal. I mean, we try to get the word out, but it isn't ideal.
And I guess the other thing I would wonder about is if you can isolate it to a certain speaker so that if you're doing the turtle races, they can all hear that. But you might not want to hear that down.
Oh, and I do know that. I do know that the turtle sound is separate and will remain separate.
Okay.
Because that's just one event speaker, and then it would be downtown. So they would be run separate.
Okay.
I currently have the infrastructure in the office to accommodate adding onto it. So it's not like we have to start a system. It's just a little bit of add-on into that system and the speakers.
Okay,
I do know that much.
very good.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
some questions I might have is, where would this be located, the master control unit, so to speak? And who actually controls it? Is this something that the city would control or the chamber would control? And is there an idea on cost sharing for something like this?
Pam?
I would think we would want the unit in the chamber. I mean, since we're the event orientated group in town, you know, Chief Taylor could call us and say, we have a lost child, announce it immediately, wearing a pink coat, and we would do it. The city also has access to the office and the equipment at any time. And I'm all for cost sharing.
Did you catch that, Don?
Yes, I did. Thanks.
Yeah, I would agree. I think in the chamber is the best spot. It's already there. It's just, I mean, just, it makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
For that, so. As far as cost sharing goes and stuff, I think we could we'd have to look at the total cost and stuff, but I think I don't know what you all think. I think it's a good idea to continue to explore it and look at trying to get this going if the council agreements and the chamber can work together, and certainly help. Be more than willing, any nonprofits or anybody that would like to help donate towards it, talk to the chamber and whatnot, and maybe we can, we could all come up and meet part way, match fund or something along that line. I would like to see a second quote, but I know Music General does very good work. They've always done good work.
With the turtle truck, we had problems at the beginning and they were there. They came to every turtle race, make sure everything went good. They were outstanding.
If,
Really?
if you're looking at about a $20,000 number and just say the city's gonna, just for our discussion's sake, 50%. We need bids, correct, Jenny?
No, we just need quotes.
Or quotes?
Ideally, we would get two. Sometimes if you ask and you don't get anything, you're just, that's
Okay.
where you're at. So we just document that. So there's ways to
Okay,
do that for sure, and wanting to just at least gauge the council's interest in the conversation and the topic. And if so, we would keep moving forward and work to bring something back to the council if you were supportive of that.
I think it's a good idea. Mark.
I think it's a great idea, and I'm really all for that. And I know we have to do things sort of one step at a time, but I really liked your wish list too.
Yeah, I know. I didn't get any of it
You
for
know,
Christmas.
that digital sign on 371, that could be announcing a lot of the events that are coming up.
Oh, yeah.
And then you would have the speaker system as well. I think that would
Yeah.
really complement each other very well.
Yeah, we put on pretty good events. It would be
Yeah.
really cool to make sure everybody that wants to come is there. And,
And
with the hanging a sign up out on 371, just a vinyl sign just
Yeah.
isn't doing it.
And with the road curving like that, it's a perfect location to put it there.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Mhm.
And the live camera in Nisswa. I know nobody else can see my list probably, right? Can I read it?
Please go ahead.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Perfect.
That would be
You
for
could
good
probably-
advertisement too.
Yeah, there we go.
Yes.
Here's what we wish. So downtown sound, a digital sign on 371, so we can showcase our event dates and other announcements. We would like to purchase the large Nisswa letters. They're individual letters about 5 feet tall. Each letter is about 5 feet tall and however wide, and maybe put them in the pocket park. I've been to other cities, lots of other cities, where you stand by them and take your picture, and it would just put Nisswa out there even more. I'd like to have a name the pocket park contest. We have money that we started with a raffle that was approved this last year for starting the Pretty Good Nisswa Foundation. We're working on that to start a board, but we have $15,000 just sitting in somewhere to beautify and advance Nisswa, things in Nisswa. So that's kind of exciting. Not too often you get the money before you get the rest of it going. We'd like to do a town hall with the city council and the chamber. And a lot of times we get mixed up with each other and we get phone calls for you and you get phone calls for us, and just have a citywide thing, come in and have treats and coffee and talk. We've got music in the gazebo that was approved this last year, so I can see kind of gathering in town for that. A downtown camera live, so if a tourist is here and their kids are at home, they can run and wave, and it would be pointed towards the downtown section over there, maybe turnable to turtle races on Wednesdays. And use of the community center. We're hosting our first blood drive on Monday. Yeah, it's
Oh.
full. We didn't even have to advertise it, so go Nisswa. That's it. That's it. I have more, but that's all I'm gonna give you tonight.
Well, again, I think that we should continue to look at the downtown sound system. Mark,
Yeah.
you agree?
I agree. Yeah,
Mhm.
definitely.
Awesome.
Yep.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Pam.
Parks memo, request RFP for long-range park plan. Amber.
All right. Well, picking off of the long-range plan that they're talking about, I got my own plan and my own wish list. So in the memo, you guys see a basic recap of some of the things the Park Commission has been discussing and rolling around with over the last almost year, but specifically the last 2 months. You have a partial report from the American Arena feasibility study that we did. Kind of kept it to the nuts and bolts and the price tag of it all with what each option amounted to. The Park Commission was able to review the entire feasibility study that American Arena gave us. They gave me some feedback, which led to option A and B. So to the two types of facilities we kind of talked about were 2 full sheets of ice, and then keeping a mini rink and a full size like we have right now. Under both of them, they wanted to see refrigeration and a roof included on a full-size sheet of ice. So through that, we kind of talked about city park, what the space can allow, what kind of services do we intend to provide. Tossed around a lot of these different discussions and which directions we want to go, knowing that adding a roof would likely change a little bit of the footprint of the park. I said it'd be my recommendation to look at the park design. We are going to need to replace our large playground structure in probably 5 to 8 years. We know pickleball is forever on the wish list. The basketball courts are going to need to be resurfaced. So again, like a lot of the things, there's just the and keeps going. And so to create that plan now, get the community engagement going. And then the more I've thought about it and the more I've researched over the last week, knowing that we have Camp Lincoln coming, that's going to have to go through the same process with community engagement and design. It'd be my recommendation to kind of do a master plan for the entire city that encompasses a concept design, hopefully for City Park and Camp Lincoln. So while we have the community's interest in an engagement, we can get all the feedback at one time, and then they can see the entire Parks, Rec, open space and trail system and how each facility can complement each other, instead of, well, I wanted this and like, but it's gonna go there. So just seeing the entire picture and what gaps we might have, what the long range planning is, how to implement that, what the funding would look like, what the replacement cost would look like, doing a long range master plan which was also identified in our 2019 comprehensive plan to do. So the more I thought about it, the more I would recommend just one shot, let's assess it all versus a narrow scope of just the city park design. So a lot of information in here. I'm happy to answer any questions you guys have as to what the park commission's been working through, what their recommendations are. But ultimately looking to you guys in terms of direction for an RFP and where you guys want to kind of go with some of this.
Well, first of all, from me, I'm always a great fan of long-range planning. So, to look at it as a whole package, I think that's a great idea. That'll reduce a lot of costs in the long run as well.
That's what I think.
And, but I think what you said in here was that as a cursory look, that this option B in Appendix C was
Yep.
what you were thinking.
Yep, that is ultimately kind of where the commission landed at this time.
Uh-huh.
To update the boards need to be updated on the small rink. So still keeping an aggregate base, updating the boards. And if the lighting may or may not be necessary with that one. It might all have to be moved to a certain extent. So that might be an additional cost on it, but ultimately, yeah, that was their recommendation to go with option B, which is the same size rinks we have, a full size and a mini, with the addition of a rough consideration.
And with that, then in the summertime, that would be used like for other things like pickleball or basketball maybe. Or
Yep,
something
yep,
like
it'd provide a little bit more multi-use. It can be, pickleball under there, things like that. Maybe somebody wants an outdoor wedding. I could see things like potentially if the farmer's market wanted to relocate, or, you think the Crazy Days, maybe there's, people's side businesses, or if the storefronts want to have an offshoot over there, things like that.
Okay.
Thank you. I like this. So how do we want to proceed, Jenny? How do we want to start?
So what I think Amber and I are looking for is council support to draft a request for proposals that would speak to this idea of looking for someone to come in and do that master park plan.
Yep.
Basically incorporate all 4 parks that we have in our community and help design, do, all those logistics, community engagement, some of those pieces as well. Draft it, run through the Parks Commission, bring it to council for approval, and hopefully get that running and see where we end up at that point and decide how we want to proceed with the information we get from the.
So
quotes.
what's the length? What's our time frame? When would you like to, if we approve this tonight, then what's our time frame? What do we want to look at? Because I would assume, I hate to say it, but budget time is not, well, it's here. I mean, it seems like
Sure.
budget
Yep.
for 2022 budget is, or 2023 budget is, time is fast approaching, so.
Right.
To complete the study, they said usually takes 3 to 6 months.
Okay,
So trying to hit the summer would be very important.
Yeah.
So
looking at
it's a
this fall.
quick timeline.
by the time
I would hope to ideally onboard someone by early summer.
Yeah.
Based on the rink conversation, that we need to make decisions on that based on, the remaining life of some of the elements of our rink. We need to be able to make decisions. Whether that the funds come from the city general fund, which I'm supportive of looking at that option. We have money in parks reserves, but there are a lot of expenses to put that money to right now already. So I definitely think we should have that in mind, that this could be, again, just part of that long-range planning
Right.
investment by the city
Mhm.
to help create, make the Parks Department very successful.
Do you have any
I'd like to move
idea?
forward soon.
What was that,
Go ahead.
Don?
Don.
Do you have any idea on what a request or proposal might cost us? If you're talking $50,000 or so, I don't know. A little expensive. I'm not against planning, but I hate to approve something that has no limit on the end, I guess.
And certainly there are aspects we can probably choose to do or not, just depending, but I'm guessing it's more in the 20 to 30 range.
That would be my guess, just because we're not a large city. I would guess it'd be more of that range.
Well, I would just say one thing that I said at the previous meeting was the ice, the chiller for the rinks. When we talked about that, we said the chiller would keep the rinks open for maybe another 2 weeks or 3 at the most. And the cost of the chillers to do that may be exorbitant for the amount of time it gives you for an extra week of ice skating or something. I would look really closely at that.
No, the 2 to 3, yeah, another 2 weeks roughly is what we figured you could extend or get ahead of time with your ice rink. But did that include a roof? If the roof is on there, does that
It extends the life.
extend it a little further?
Yes.
Most likely. I mean, I
We're
think
still
we're
fighting
not
Mother Nature.
talking several months here
No.
that we're looking at trying to extend the season. I'm in my mind, like a Thanksgiving to early March seems appropriate, based on what we're capable of currently in our operation. And I think the public will eventually just want to switch sports. They want to switch activities. They're going to get spring fever, but we do start getting our first calls around the first snow.
Yeah.
Mid-November.
And the RFP would not obligate the city to do anything.
Correct.
So we would just have information to then make decisions down the line.
I know I've talked to one realtor about it and one banker about it, and the comments were that the park is a draw for some families and things. And then I did ask, to what extent, at the realty part of it, to what extent does the city park system play in whether people purchase a home or not, whether they come to live here or not? And, his comment was, for the most part, if you have kids, parks tend to be a big thing. If you don't, but you have active people, even retired people that are active retired, like the trail system is a big draw.
Mhm.
So I would entertain a motion on requesting for the parks, reference the memo for an RFP for a long-range park plan design.
I'll make a motion to request the RFP for long-range park plan and design as set forth in tonight's meeting. As
Second.
presented.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Carried.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Amber.
Okay, Public Works, request to purchase a John Deere tractor with a diamond ditch mower.
I can take the next couple items with respect to the equipment purchases. So this first item is to request to purchase a John Deere tractor with the diamond ditch mower. The total cost for both is $106,116.92. It is under budget by about $7,000 from what we had planned from last summer. So that is a positive, as that's not typical when we see that, but otherwise it is incorporated as we budgeted for last year. I will try to answer questions if you have them.
Just one question. There's a number of items here for tractors and mowers and stuff. Do we have the money in the budget for all of these requests, or are we getting pretty close to the well is going dry?
We do have,
Oh, no, these are all budgeted.
Correct. Yeah, they were all budgeted and they were all incorporated as part of our capital improvement plan funding matrix that we did last summer. So yes, Don, they have all been budgeted for.
Okay. Entertain a motion on item 5, Public Works request to purchase tractor, John Deere tractor and Diamond ditch mower.
I'd move that we go ahead and we request purchase the John Deere tractor and Diamond head ditch mower as presented.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The next item is purchase of a John Deere Gator. This is basically a UTV. Go ahead.
I'll make a motion to approve the request to purchase the John Deere Gator.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the next one is for the wastewater department. Request to purchase a Bobcat tool cat. If there's anyone that doesn't know what those are, basically it's a workhorse is what it is. It's got a dump box, and then I noticed if you watch downtown, the guys will connect or pick up a 3-yard dumpster during the busy time of the year, and they'll go around, dump the garbage right into the dumpster, and boom, done. It's a time saver, as well as a lot of other stuff that they do use that for. There was a question about, let's see, financial. This one is over, a little over budget, correct?
It is, yes. Yeah, it is within our sewer fund, however, and we can work within the funding matrix with this cost to replace what we have and trade in, and yeah, price is higher, but we will make it work within the funding we have.
And they had looked at other options other than the tool cat too, right? Staff did.
I don't know the extent. I do know that this model toolcat is much improved over the one we have had for a number of years. And so they made the improvements. Otherwise, I think likely we would have looked at something different. But the challenges we had with this current one should not be the same with the new model.
Okay. Entertain a motion?
I'll move.
Okay. Go ahead, Don.
I'll move the item.
Okay.
I'll second.
presented. Yeah.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Recycling center update, looking for direction from us.
Yes, so Tom Blum, our Public Works Director, provided the council a memo just to provide an update. As we've been talking about the recycling center for a number of months, even more than a year now, probably, about the challenges that we have had with our recycling center. It is getting a lot of use. That's continuing to increase. Nisswa is 45% of the recycling activity in the county, so it's significant. And something that Tom and I learned a couple of months ago was that the county is expanding their recycling center facilities at the landfill, and they're investing a large amount of money to create a new facility there. And with that, we wanted to bring this to the council and see if the council still had an interest in looking at expanding our recycling center by our public works facility off of Lower Roy Lake Road, as we had been planning to do to improve the layout and the configuration and everything. Along those lines, we will also incorporate a couple of other city needs, like our police impound lot and a couple of other things, but wanted to take the opportunity to get your feedback to see if you'd like us to still pursue this. If so, the Public Works Committee would engage the public in some feedback and kind of go through those steps and bring an official recommendation to the council, but wanted to at least engage you in a discussion to see where you are in light of the county's new project that they're doing.
My position on it is we should continue to look into it. It's not obligating us into anything. We're gonna build, you're gonna have the impound lot, you're gonna have the shooting range for the police for their training, and you're gonna have Tom's Department of Public Works that needs an area where they can securely store class 5 composting, different things that they currently have. And it's going to be secured and locked up so people can't get into it, and we don't have to worry about that. County's going to spend a lot of money on their facility. It sounds like that they may or may not work as far as they continuing to split costs with us for the actual hauling of the recycling. So it's potential that Nisswa could end up having to pay the full load, which is currently approximately how much again?
It's 70,000 for the entire cost, so we each pay 35.
Okay, so we could potentially be on the hook for 70,000 plus. But we are 45% of the county's recycling. And, so I think we should, if we have that much recycling going on, we should at least look at taking the step, being asked to continue to look at it, in my opinion. As far as fencing is concerned, we're going to be putting fencing up anyway, to a certain extent, just to cover the rest of it. This is actually fenced off inside of what the main fenced area is. So there might be a way to, even if we don't do it right now, if that's a decision that is made down the road, that we could still, the area isn't going anywhere. It's gonna be fenced in anyway. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah, we discussed this several months ago at the Public Works meeting, and it's sort of a difficult issue because it's not really, it still works yet where it's located. But again, the city's not, or the county's not thinking of continuing the support at all. This next year they will, or this year they will, I guess, but we don't know about the following years. And we do have that site available near the sand, the
Sewer and maintenance job.
that area, yes. And that will handle not only that, but as well as some other functions that we need as a city. So it sounds like that's a very good area to put it anyway, at first blush. So I think it's worth it to at least continue to consider this. Like John said, we're not obliged to do so yet. But if we don't do something, we're going to get caught with the whole bill coming up here sooner or later.
I have nothing to add.
Well, I'll entertain a motion.
Yeah, I'll move that we, let's see here, that
Just like to authorize staff to continue.
yeah, that the staff would
Researching.
continue to consider the options that we need to move forward with the recycling center, as well as other functions that we have to do.
I'll second. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Number 9, this is a resolution requesting a housing resolution and local authority. Jenny, do you want to discuss that role?
Yes, so this is a sample resolution, and it basically encourages allowing cities to remain as the best decision makers with respect to housing and decision-making authority within our communities. So there's a lot of discussion over the past couple of years about creating these housing solutions that are really one size, one lane, and they're not really, they can't be catered to fit or tailored to fit different community needs. So this is something that we can send to the league, we can send to our legislators to let them know that we support a balanced approach. We support giving us tools as a city to encourage development in the ways that our community needs specifically, and not to obligate us to do one thing or another.
In other words, leave control of the matter within the city.
Yes, absolutely.
You know,
Mr.
reading
Mayor?
through this, it really struck me that what the state and the builders are considering is that what was easy for me to understand is that they are for profit. And so that is what's being pushed a lot, you know, and that it will always be for profit. But the local communities are, the councils are there for services. So we want to make sure that the roads are built right. You don't want to put an undue burden, but you don't want to have it that it's built on the cheap, and then later on, after the developer's gone, then we have to fix it. You know, and we have some roads here in Nisswa that they want us to do some services for them, but we're not able to do it because the roads are not built like to get rid of snow. There's banks on them if the snow won't go away. So we need to, I'm all for trying to keep the local control on this, because our needs are a lot different than maybe down in, you know, like in Marshall or somewhere else in Minnesota.
Your comments about the roads and stuff are good, but I think the biggest part here is the local zoning regulation. If we're a single family and the state comes in and says, no, you have to have triplexes, you need so many by year two or three, the zoning part of this impetus to push on the smaller cities, I think could be really, really bad for us.
I agree.
Yeah.
So I will entertain a motion on the housing memo and resolution as
I'd
presented.
move the resolution number 22 as presented.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Number F10, memo from Representative Stauber's Community Projects.
So the city received an email from Congressman Stauber's office informing us that there's an opportunity to apply for a community project funding. Basically, the city can put in a request and it will be considered as part of their discretionary ability to add projects that would have and a direct impact to the local communities that our representatives serve, which is a great opportunity. So my request in thinking about the projects that we have going, potential projects, is to consider submitting an application for our city water system. We are in the very initial steps of doing the evaluation, learning about it, but that's something that would come with a significant cost. And if there was an opportunity to, take a portion or all of that off the table, I think it would have a tremendous environmental impact and also help us align what we need to do for future commercial development, zoning, all of those things would be great. But I'm open to other ideas or feedback the council has. That was my suggestion, but I wanted to open it up. And based on the timing of when the deadline is, I would need to submit this prior to our next council meeting, but I would provide you with my draft application for feedback and comment before I submitted it, if you were okay with that.
No, I think that's a good idea with the water. As I've looked at previous applications for that, it seems pretty much, it is in infrastructure, road, sewer and so forth. So I think that would be a good one because that will be a big cost to us if we go forth with it.
And I'm always in favor of being flexible here. So if we can get this in now, at least we have that option possible and for the future. So I'm all for doing something like this.
Don?
Yeah.
Any questions?
No,
Okay. Entertain a motion?
I would move that we accept to move forward with the Stauber Community Project for funding, potential funding in the future for the water project.
Second.
Will that work, Jenny? Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Okay. That's in this file. Okay. Okay, we're gonna take a 5-minute recess, 5-minute break here. It's been one of those days. I'm not slicing myself on. Okay, item number 11, a request from TM Investments reference road requirement. This was stop me when I'm wrong. But this was initially something that was requested by Public Works as a potential, should at some point in time, the existing Bass Lake Road need to be adjusted or moved.
So can I just stop?
Okay.
I'll rewind a little bit. Can I run with it for a minute?
Go ahead.
Thanks. Okay, following last week's Planning Commission meeting, we had a sketch plan review for TM Investments, the Roy's Landing project. And the owner, Jethro Carpenter, requested to be on tonight's agenda to have a conversation about, I think specifically the outlot piece on his development plan. And what I'd like to do is just offer the opportunity for Mr. McCormick to come and explain what they want to discuss tonight, what they want to get council feedback on.
Okay.
And then we can go from there. I do believe there are members of the audience who might want to comment as well. So I'll just mention that now.
Yep.
And we'll just go from there.
Okay.
Thank you, Council. Kevin McCormick with Land Design Solutions. And yes, I think you might remember this one. We've gone a long ways with this, and yet we're still in the starting gates. So they're always good discussions. Where we're at with this right now was this design that we're looking at went from 11 lots down to 8, or excuse me, down to 6.
Yeah.
With no roadways. We originally had proposed a private roadway, and then this kind of morphed into an extension out, which is something that planning is a planning tool, but it is a planning tool when there are roads dedicated to the public. So this has always been a private road, as we discussed with you last year. What we're looking at now would be no roadways from us. They're driveways, they're private driveways, private easements, and we would reserve a portion through an easement, through an outlot, whatever we could do, what mechanism that would do for a future extension of this roadway. There's no benefit to the developer to do this, to build this road. It's not part of it. There's not a nexus connecting them. We've always looked at this at private roads. But this would give the city the advantage at somewhere down the future to possibly come through here. It was met with immediate resistance from the adjoining property owners through a letter from their attorney. So before we get engaged into preliminary plats, we'd like a little feedback. It was a tough, I think we kind of get more into the legalities of things as this moves forward. But do you even want the roadway? Number one, where it proposes to go down is about at a 19% grade. So you're either going to have to do retaining wall or roadway, or the slope gradients down this roadway would be very wide, very extreme. It seems to go against everything that your ordinance talks about with natural topography, limited vegetation removal, stormwater things. I think when we originally talked about this, we talked about, I myself had looked at this as a through road, and we abandoned that idea because of this. So there does seem to be a little bit of neighborhood pushback. They don't want the road and that type of thing. We understand that. As I look at it through the eyes of the ordinance, it doesn't meet that requirement. Nevertheless, if this is what you're looking for, we can accomplish this. Again, we're not going to build the roadway, but we give you guys the opportunity to do in the past. But before we get there, we'd like some feedback from you. Is this something that you even want to do based on some of these things? We've been asking since July of last year to have staff provide us with the nexus that makes this even possible. So we've kind of gotten beyond that with the developer, with Mr. Carpenter involved. He's willing to get here, but again, we just want to make it clear that we're not building it. And if it's unbuildable, why are we going down this road? It also ties into, so to me, it's kind of, we really need to know. We need to know. We'd like the city to respond in writing so our team can make some decisions here that are valid. I think we've provided that for the city on many occasions. So we're kind of at that point now where I think, is this even something that the city can do within the ordinance? I see things talking about half streets not being allowed. Now we're going into a half street situation. It's a little bit different, but it's gray, but there's a lot of things there that if we move forward at this point, are we going to get stopped again at the preliminary plat process like we have in the past? The second portion of this that ties in, and it does tie into roads, was what I have been telling my client for some time about a very arbitrary ruling by the former staff about this being within the shoreland district of a natural environment lake that overlaps a general development lake. Therefore, it was that person's determination that this now has to all be built to natural environment standards. After we already went through the change in the zoning ordinance to allow the 4 lots. These are all pertinent for us as we move forward. I don't see anything in that ordinance The DNR completely punted on it and said it was the city's determination. There's nothing in your ordinance that talks about overlaps. And you're now saying that we rezoned it to shoreland general development, but we're not going to give you that. We're going to take that away from you. And now you're going to put a roadway in for us or give us the means to. Seems like a lot of taking without a lot of substance behind the ordinance. So we really want to be clear on where we're going before we go the next step. I don't expect everyone to have magic answers tonight. Everyone has their opinions, myself included. I think it's down to the point now where I think it would behoove everyone to have a written opinion. And I don't know if that's through the city attorney's office or the staff and everybody get together about this. Where are we going with this based on our ordinance so that we can start making some good sound decisions on where we go with this too. And again, it's important to us, even the shoreland situation of this. 40,000 square feet of buildable ground versus 80,000 square feet of buildable ground. All of that plays into where that roadway could go in. We've had some nice conversations with WSN. They'd like to have us draw this down to a little softer area. Hence the problem begins. Now we have to abide by the areas of land 12% or greater. All of these issues tie into this design, and I just don't see where the nexus is for roadways when we can do this privately or through individual driveways. We're willing to aid the city with that for that future planning, but it needs to be where it's conducive to the developer as well. And then again, secondly, I think a revisit of how overlapping shorelands, it's not been done in the city of Nisswa before. The DNR wasn't gonna weigh in on it. And what we did receive, like I said, was just a bit of an arbitrary elevation based on, we never did get the answer, what it was based on. So as we move forward, I think I just wanted you to be aware of it. Wanted to get any of your thoughts on it. And we did really want to go on the record requesting a written synopsis of where in the ordinance this applies. And where do we go from here? I think it's a win-win for everybody. And I can try and answer any questions that you may have. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Does anybody have a question for Mr. McCormick?
Oh, I just have a comment, that's all, but go ahead.
Oh, we'll hang on to that.
I have one question, Mr. McCormick. If I'm looking at this, so the lowest property with the home there, his access to his home would be off of Bass Lake Road, correct?
That's correct, yes.
And the property, I'm going to say north of that, where's his access to his property?
They would all come in off of Roy Lake Road.
The other, so,
Right.
so those, the only one that would access, would access off of Bass Lake Road is that one on the bottom of your
That is
drawing.
correct.
All the others would come off of Roy Lane.
Correct. No, it's not
There's
correct.
another one here.
Can you come to the podium, please?
Yep.
Thank you.
Because it looks like there's two that come off of Bass Lake Road. And then three that come off of Roy Lane.
I'll go. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yep. Correct. Yep. So if you're looking at it, the property directly north of the lot 2 block 1 comes off of Bass Lake Road.
That was the change.
Correct. Sorry.
So that one driveway will have a 19-degree.
Yes.
Correct. Well, unless we decide to, which we can retain it or do the same thing that the city's gonna do with the road, I would assume, so.
And it also has the option of doing what I've been saying, coming in off.
Yeah.
Again, this is imperfect, right? You know, but we pretty much did to demonstrate that we don't need to put a road in order to provide access for the lots.
You know, that road, if you go down that way for the one that's a little bit north of it, why not just tie into that other driveway from,
I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, this is gonna have a roadway, a driveway anyway. Gonna go out this way. This one, you're going down like this one, that's nine,
I'm not, or we haven't exactly decided. There's what would happen, or the reason why is given the 12% grade deal and exclusion, the problem is it's a, until we get direction from you guys, like everything's kind of a moving puzzle, right? So we're trying to fit everything in. In this particular case, that's how we did it in order to get the square footage for the lots to work out. If that makes sense.
So we're looking at, well, before we get into our discussion on it, so and whatnot, and ask, but was there anyone from the public that wanted to comment?
I will also note while they're coming up to the podium, we did receive 5 emails today. Council's been provided a copy. I just wanted to make that known at the meeting here.
yeah, I read through those.
Hi, I'm Paul Rasmussen. I live at 25221 Bass Lake Road. I am the Nisswa resident who lives on Bass Lake Road.
Yeah.
Appreciate your listening to me talk about Bass Lake Road. I've said it before, I'm gonna say it again. Please leave Bass Lake Road the way it is. We want it to remain gravel and we don't want it to be moved. If you must include an outlot in Mr. Carpenter's development, I think that the city must make it very clear that every lot within the development must meet ordinances. Whether there's an outlot or not, you still must meet ordinances. The ordinances are there for obvious reasons, one of which is to protect the environment. This is very difficult land. We've been talking about it for over a year. It is an odd shape. It has a 90-degree angle at the very narrowest portion. It has 2 distinct bluffs. It has significant grades throughout the parcel. It's located between 2 lakes, and the wetlands and the bogs. One of the lakes is a natural environment lake. It's difficult to develop. The fact that Mr. Carpenter and the previous developer started off trying to squeeze in many more homes and now has 7 homes here isn't a result of some sort of unfair treatment. It's a result of them trying to squeeze in as many homes as it possibly can within the ordinances on this very difficult land, environmentally sensitive land. Someday this will probably make a very good case study for class in public and zoning requirements. They have not given up anything. All we have done is asked that the ordinances be observed. And in this case, we should take particular attention, make sure that they're strictly observed in order to obtain some sort of minimum protection for the environment. With respect to the fairness of the of having to give up land or so forth, the roads are being required here because of the development. The outlot and the prospective easements for the road should be included in this development, not dependent on the adjoining neighbor's land in order to meet the requirements for the roads. What Mr. Carpenter doesn't mention is that on the western side, if in the event Bass Lake Road is abandoned, this property reclaims a significant amount of land when a Bass Lake Road is abandoned. So it's not just all take, give. And there has been no take, give. We're just asking that the ordinances be observed. Mr. Carpenter and Mr. McCormick are correct. This land was rezoned. There's still some very valid questions with respect to why that was, what the purpose of the public purpose of that rezoning was. With respect to the issue of the application of the National Environment Lake setback restrictions and how this applies to the land, that was not an arbitrary decision by the city, by the city planner. That was an application of the ordinances. That will get into the question with respect to the topographical divide of this land. And that was not something that the DNR walked away from, but that is a legal question that must be answered. And this is not something that's just an arbitrary decision, one way or the other, that's being applied unfairly to Mr. McCormick and Mr. Carpenter. That the fact that Bass Lake is a natural environment lake is a fact. The fact that Roy Lake is also in the vicinity does not negate the fact that Bass Lake requirements must be met. If you take Roy Lake out, it's still there. Bass Lake is still there and the requirements are still there. Bass Lake Road, I don't really know why we're still talking about it. Nobody wants it. The Public Works wants it because they want all Nisswa roads to be the same. I get that, but this is a unique situation. And I appreciate the fact, I guess I would appreciate the fact that if Nisswa wants to have discussions or they're talking about making decisions about Bass Lake Road, please include the residents in those discussions. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Brad Berkland, 924 Bass Lake Road. Just in respect to the take, let's just remember that what we started out with, OSR zoning is 100,000 square foot minimum lot size. Right now, it's 80,000 minimum lot size. So, I mean, that's not a small deal. Most of these homes don't fit within the 100,000 square foot lot size. And going off what Paul said, the DNR did work with the city of Nisswa to come up with that topographic divide. If you were to look on a map of the lake, I mean, all that land just flows right into Bass Lake. It's not like the water goes into Roy Lake. It's gonna flow into Bass Lake. That's why there's the NE lake classification standards. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Charlotte Philhauer, 25624 Roy Lane. I'm not here. The last two gentlemen are far more informed on developments and all of that. I'm not here to comment on that. My main purpose tonight is, as a Roy Lane resident, to talk a little bit about this road that keeps popping up in our conversations. And it disturbs me that we just have these casual conversations without really any structure of a dialogue. I've been a full-time resident here. It'll be 2 years in May. And this is the first time I heard about it when we started this development conversation with Mr. McCormick and his client. According to the Minnesota Department of Transportation, there's approximately 70,000 miles of gravel roads. And I just don't understand why Little Bass Lake Road is causing, why is that road even a discussion? How many miles long is that road? We have 70,000 miles that county and city municipalities are taking care of every year. I grew up on a farm. And year round, we have tractors and combines and plows and going on our gravel roads. I drove them. I've been on them my whole life. And I just don't understand why this beautiful road is a point of contention for somebody. this summer, Upper Roy Lake Road had tons of potholes and crevices that they were out sealing. And it's not like we paved that road or we bring in a new road onto Roy Lane and our problems are over and they're never going to have to fix a pothole again. I mean, that's not the way it works. There's potholes regardless whether they're hard surfaces or gravel. But I find it interesting that, one, there's never been any sit down a conversation with the Bass Lake 2 Nisswa taxpayers. Two. And Paul and his parents are here. They're not the ones complaining about potholes, but they're the two taxpayers. The rest of us, 18 plus, I didn't sit and count Roy Lane maybe, but we got 18 people on our road. And I guarantee none of us want an additional, 38 or 40, how many residents are on Bass Lake Road. And then every weekend, their gas times 4, and then you've got traffic and kids and whatever. Like Roy Lane doesn't want that road. I guarantee it. And the current road condition of Roy Lake or Roy Lane is going to have to be totally redone. And who's going to pay for it? It's not the lakeshore, right? So my question to the city and Public Works, who's not here tonight, is that what our conversations are we having with the city of Lakeshore? I mean, if you're going to do this kind of project, I, for one, don't want it and I don't want to pay for it. And only 2 Nisswa residents on Bass Lake don't want the road and they don't want to pay for it. So I think this whole conversation about the road, if we're serious about this, we need to have a conversation with the residents. We need some hard facts. What are the expenses that are incurred on this gravel road maintenance versus the cost of installing, a brand new road? Has there been a traffic study done to tell me what the traffic is? Have we done a safety? That curve in the middle of winter is crazy. You want more traffic coming out on a very dangerous road. Have we looked at other options? 5 years ago, the University of Minnesota did a study. There's a proprietary product that you can put on gravel roads. In Wadena County, which isn't very far, pick up the phone, call them. It's called Base 1. It was developed by the University of Minnesota. Have we looked at other options that stabilize that gravel road? And the product of Base 1 is environmentally sound. So we're not going to be dealing with ruining our beautiful lake that lines up next to that. I just think there's so many other things that need to be discussed here. And I feel bad for these 2 gentlemen who are trying to develop this. We've been at this podium for a year now. They want answers, and we're sitting here hanging up on an easement. And that easement should not be the Dulams or the Weiss's problem. They shouldn't have to lose part of their land to satisfy these 2 gentlemen. But this all could be resolved if we just said, you know what? We don't need a new road. We don't need to route Lakeshore residents on a new road that we have to pay for as taxpayers. So I guess what I'm asking the city council members is I think we need to put this to rest once and for all. And if Public Works doesn't want to put it to rest, then I ask the city planner to start having a dialogue with the Nisswa taxpayers, because this casual conversation is just not working. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, close public comment. Council discussion. Don?
Well, as you know, this is a difficult piece of land to develop. It's got a lot of problems with it. And it's been talked about for almost 2 years now. So it's not something I think that the city council should be deciding here tonight based upon the information you have in front of you tonight. I would let the planning commission and public works do their thing. And if there's a variance that's needed, everybody agrees to it, you can handle that. But to impose arbitrarily at this point, at the council level to say, change this road or change this line, I don't think that's proper. Let the P and Z go at it and do their thing and work with Public Works, and they can come up with an option that hopefully will meet with the ordinances, but I don't think that going at the problem this way is going from the top down. We need to work with the planning commission, let them do their thing, and don't provide any restrictions to them. And I think that you'll have a decision one way or another, either to comply with the ordinances and what the planning commission says, or the developer will have to say, it's not worth the time, energy, and money to do what I want to do. But I think that should come from the planning commission and the public works, and not city council at this point.
Just so we're clear, the question tonight for us is whether or not Mr. Carpenter, it sounds like it's willing to work with the city as far as giving us an easement. So just on this piece of property that he has, it doesn't include any other portion or any other easements from any other property owners or anybody else that would have to happen should anything move forward at any point in time in the future. There is no plan to move anything forward. The goal is for Mr. Carpenter is asking, do we want an easement there on his piece of property? If the answer is yes, then okay, I will have to make my adjustments and you guys will work with him and we'll have to make the adjustments accordingly so they can move forward with their plan.
But Mr. Mayor, I think
That's what he wants to know tonight.
but I think that should come from the planning commission after discussion with all the 7 members of the planning commission and not tonight at the city council meeting.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, from the public works side, we've gone through this discussion before as well. And as far as just looking at this easement or not, I guess I'm always the type of person that likes to have options. So to have flexibility. So in order to, we may not even ever use it, but we need to have the easement there in case in the future, after I'm all gone, and somebody else decides, no, we do need it, then I think we need to make sure that that easement is there and available. Otherwise, you shut that off completely. But at this point, we still have Bass Lake Road and Roy Lake Road. So we'll still have those two anyway. And eventually, they're going to have to be repaired anyway. But my understanding, like in about 5 years or so, that road will have to be redone. And they are looking at that curve about the, that dangerous portion that you're talking about. They'll have to look at that as well when they do the repair or that redoing that road. But all these other issues like the DNR lake and all these other issues, I'm not the expert on that. All I know is that we're just talking about this easement, and I feel that we should be able to have that easement in place available if ever that would be used. Once you don't do that in the future, you don't know how it will change and it will be shut off. So for flexibility, I think that's important. And I know that the original drawing here was at 19%. That's really steep. And I know that even the Bass Lake Road, that gravel road has a 9% slope as you go down it. And with this other dotted line, my understanding is that it becomes a softer grade. So, and I'm not sure exactly what it was. I heard it was like 12%,
12.
right? So that's, that's the reason why there's this line here, from my understanding. If that's the case, I would say that we need to have that as an easement, and that's what I would recommend.
Really?
Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
You don't have to say.
I just, well, no, I'm just saying with the easement there and looking and everything being redrawn, and yes, I can understand why we would want an easement, guaranteed easement on there for future access in case other things happen. Looks now like we might, with the way the lines are, would now be coming further into the, what I think is the Doolin property.
No, we're not asking for that.
No, we're just asking for an easement off of Bass Lake Road into the property. But if in the future we want to come off of Roy Lake Lane and go through with paving, that'll be a. But if we do throw this back to planning and zoning, I just have a few questions I would like them to answer. Is one, I know the initial reason why we're looking at the road is to have a connection, with the Bass Lake Road there and everything. So it would be Roy Lake Lane down to, and so that whole road then would be paved. But what are the benefits to the city by doing that? If we leave Bass Lake Road as is, as some want it, if we do that, I wouldn't want to see any future improvements on the Bass Lake Road, leave it as is in its entirety. And that's about it. But I'm just questioning why now. Well, I'll just leave it at that.
Do you want to say something?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a point of clarification, when we're talking about that 19%, you said it,
Right.
to get down into 10%,
Yeah.
that's the magic number, that's the problem. Now it takes away from the developer's land that is conducive for development. We can't show our total lot areas over 12%. See, so that's what I'm, and when I said the word, I wish I'd never said take. What I meant was, from the city's perspective, we're taking quite a bit here. We're taking easement land, we're taking drainage land, we've taken away the ability for shoreland. But what happens here when we bring this down, now that does take away from his required buildable area. Not saying we're going to shut the door to it, but we have to make that conducive for him so he can achieve either his 40,000 square feet buildable ground or 80,000.
Okay.
And
I
that
see.
kind of puts the roadway into the unpopular area. Yeah, and it's right. So just to let you know, that's we're looking
That's
at
the
that.
concern.
We try to stay there. And the other thing too is, regardless of whether that goes in, if this plat goes through, like we're saying, that we're also giving right away along Bass Lake Road. You're into bluff situations and everything, but when we're talking about this big cut that would have to be done, some additional work to Bass Lake Road in the same venue of thought, you're going to move a lot of dirt, but it might be the more conducive place to get the road. It's his road. It's never been dedicated to the public. There might be prescription easement to it, but he's the fee owner to that area. So him getting land back by moving these things isn't true. And we would be providing road right away along Bass Lake Road and hopefully an easement for future use. So I just wanted to clarify that too. Thanks.
Yeah, my understanding was that by moving it out this way, we wouldn't have to cut very much down, make retention walls or anything. It would make it a lot easier. But I hear what you're saying as far as that, and I'm sure the city staff would work with you very well on that.
Yeah.
saying, right? So you're just extending the distance.
Yeah.
It isn't like Bass Lake Road as you go farther towards the lake, it's like higher and elevation changes. There isn't a change, it extends it over a little longer period of length need for the cut. But it doesn't, the high point of where the bluff is there, where the high point of the hill and the low point of the road is the same within 6 inches. So I mean, there isn't, that movement isn't necessarily like, oh, the grade is gonna be half the deal, that's not true at all, it's over a longer period of time. Slow.
Mhm.
Just wanted to throw those.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Okay, my 2 cents is I understand the need that Public Works has wanting to get an easement before it's too late. The city of Nisswa has repeatedly, if you talk about cost to taxpayers, we have passed up opportunities
Yeah.
to purchase land that we should have purchased when it was affordable. Now it's been developed and we're going to be purchasing it anyway at a substantially higher cost.
Yeah.
We have no choice, and there we are. So that's what Public Works, every place in the city, every department in the city was directed by the council last year to please do long-term planning. Another problem this city has always had, it doesn't do. We're changing that. It's new to us yet in some cases. When you do something like this, from the conversations I've had with county, city, and other planning and zoning individuals around the state, is you create hardships, potential hardships for the landowner or the developer. Typically, if the hardship is, if there's a hardship can be shown, there's the potential for a variance. If you can't create your own hardship, in this case, if the city created a hardship. So that's why I'm saying that, securing an easement is one thing, building a road, using it for a road, changing anything is something completely different. This does not affect anyone else's property right now as it sits. That would all have to be, if a road, and that's a big if, a road was to be connected to Roy Lane or whatever, all that other property has to be negotiated, has to be discussed, it has to be looked at. Is it even feasible? Will it happen? Et cetera. But if we don't secure an easement and then it's decided 20 years down the road, well, yeah, everybody changes their mind and wants to do it this way. Now, how much is it going to cost? That, and just to Mr. Carpenter's position, he just wants to know, okay, if that's going to happen, what do I have? How do I plan around that? But does Bass Lake Road need to go anywhere? Can it just stay where? Probably. I don't see it going anywhere in my lifetime. But it does bring up, whether we want to admit it or not, it does bring up issues given the type of terrain that it is sitting on. I've driven down Bass Lake Road on wet years, and it's been very wet. This year it wasn't. It was a low water year. But as our engineer has explained to us in the past, the type of foundation that Bass Lake Road currently sits on does create certain long-term maintenance issues. That's what Tom Blommer was getting at. How do we, trying to keep it up, especially for the city, we don't have graders anymore. We contract it out. It's not insurmountable. It's not that it can't be done, but a paved road is easier to take care of. We understand that. If it can't be, there's only a couple dirt roads left, Bass Lake Road being one of them in Nisswa. If that's what it has to be, that's what it has to be. All we're worried about is whether or not we should do this easement now. Don, I understand your position. This is something planning and zoning should be dealing with and saying, okay, what's it going to look like if we do A? What does Mr. Carpenter's options, where are they at, et cetera. And so, and a decision needs to be made, because I do agree with the people that live on Bass Lake Road and with Mr. McCormick. I'm gonna say Mr. McCormick, because he's been dealing with it longer than you have. A decision's gotta get made and just be done. It is, I mean, everyone needs to be able to get on with stuff without having to worry about this every time we turn around. So my question is, if you want the planning and zoning and public works to sit down and look at this, is that something the two of them can do? Or Jenny, you've talked to all the parties involved. Departments.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, the preliminary plat will come to the council for approval, and we don't want something to be agreeable up until the point of the council then starting to ask questions or wonder why something is presented the way it is. So I think it's a fair question. Planning and zoning and public works have both vetted this numerous times. I think ultimately they both want something that's reasonable, that seems to work. If we can meet the goals of all parties, great. That would be ideal. And so potentially if that's still an option, what we might need to do is work with our city engineer a little bit more about where that road would actually go and if it's buildable in a reasonable manner and how much land that might impact the developer. That might be the question, but I think the general.
No, when we say road, you
Concept.
mean the easement piece.
Easement, thank you. Yeah, the location of where that, right. So I think that's ultimately though, I think the council looking for your direction, if you are supportive of the easement conversation, or if you just say, nope, that's not an interest we have, they can adjust. And I think both planning commission and public works would respect that from the council.
Okay, here's my opinion. If it can work so that, because I can already hear the yelling that's gonna happen if the lot does not meet the ordinance and we grant a variance because we created the hardship.
Right.
I can already hear one side not being happy with that. I know you, no, nobody, okay. I can already see that argument on that side. Okay. So what I would like planning and zoning and public works to do is say this, is it worth the argument? And if people want to have Bass Lake Road just left gravel, because I would not be in favor of paving it ever, simply because it's just too wet. It's a floating road, in essence, is what it is. And I would love to, I don't see the state or the county or the DNR or even the Corps or anyone giving us the okay to dig that one out.
And it's a
I don't even want to know
7-digit
what that would
number.
cost. It's a huge, I know it'll be a huge number. I've seen them do it up north, digging out swamp or bog and stuff on 73 going north, and I'll tell you, they never got to the bottom. So I don't know what would happen here. And you don't want that next to this environmental lake. So I would like to see planning and zoning and public works give us a final answer, and I will go with their recommendation. Do they think that having that easement is worth it or not? And if the answer is yes, then the answer is yes. I have no problem with that. If the answer is no, then, but a lot of that's going to depend on if we put that easement in, what does that do to one, potentially two buildable lots? Does that make sense?
Mr. Mayor, if I may, the question is just, do we want to even have an easement? Then we can take it back to the public works and to planning, and they can hash that out, whether it's even feasible or not. But I think the direction is that we're trying to look for right now is, do we want to even consider having an easement or not?
I know.
And I would say, yes, should have that easement there and then go back to planning and public works and with staff and work that out, if it's even feasible or not.
Okay. Well, I will entertain a motion on that.
Before you do that, can I ask Tom if he has any thoughts or input on, I know this is a complex deal. And I just wanted to get your take on if there's anything we're not thinking of or steps in the process.
No,
Can you turn your microphone? Is your microphone on, Tom?
I don't recommend any action items by the council at this point. This was really McCormick and Carpenter here saying, hey, we got to put a fork in the load here on this. We got to get to a decision making, which I think Don is right. This needs to get back to the planning commission in conjunction with Public Works. To me, this discussion tonight was more FYI about how to get to the end on this thing and less about the council making directions about what they want about easements or anything else. So I guess I would advise against any directions to the planning commission at this point. I think the representative for the planning commission on the council has heard what you have to say about that, the potential of that easement. And I think that's probably where you leave it.
Okay.
Can I ask another question? Because there were, hold on, 2 questions also about the overlapping of shoreland standards. I know the city, and just via being kept in the loop with our former city planner, did work with the DNR. They had established, some criteria, had passed it on to the developer. In my mind, that next step would be a comment back to the city to say why, maybe a disagreement on that. And then that would go to you ultimately to evaluate. Is there another way we can do that? Or how do we get through that question?
No, I think that's the right thing. I mean,
Okay.
we've got to get to that. And it's an important question that we haven't had to get answered because
Yep.
the former project got abandoned, but we're back to it. And so, yes, I agree with that.
Okay. So ultimately, we need your response to what the information we've given you, and then we'll work through that if that works. And no? Can you come to the podium? Thanks. Since we have somebody on Zoom.
We didn't get any information besides that they said that it's anything below it was like the 1236 contour or something, was going to be ruled natural environment lake. Well, the lake level at Gull Lake is 1194, so there isn't a single property around Gull Lake that is not below 1236. Like it's an arbitrary number. Like you can't have an OHW of 1194 and anything that is at 1236 and above is going to be GD. So like we didn't get anything besides her just telling us. And again, we provided, we had Kevin McCormick for Land Solutions go out and do a bunch of surveying work because there's criteria that has to meet per the DNR, but it wasn't a DNR decision. It was the DNR deferred to the city. I mean, there was some conversations between Danny and Brittany, but again, it was a staff decision that she really, in my opinion, wasn't the person that should be making the decision, specifically with the explanation she gave us, which is not even relative possible. Like it has to be more elaborate than that, I guess is our point.
I do know that extensive work was done between the two, and the DNR would be, much more of an expert in that, certainly. So I want to say that there was work done in an effort to provide good information. That was the intent behind that.
If there was some more information that they could provide how they came up with it,
Sure.
that'd be super. Like the
Sure.
email that we got was non-informative at all. And it was
Okay.
just, that was the decision. There's no talking about it. We did extensive work to prove the flow of the water because per the DNR regulations, which we followed and went through the process to prove otherwise, and it was completely disregarded. There was no, again, we didn't meet or do anything with it. So that's really it. But I really appreciate you guys' time. I'm sorry that's running so late.
Do you have enough information right now from us, the council, the 4 of us that have spoken, to get with staff and you have enough
Move forward.
direction from us?
Yes, and I will
Okay.
work with our city planner on some of the details and getting caught up with that. So yes.
And I know the city planner, our new city planner has been in touch with Danny and the DNR and is working on it. Okay. Okay. rather than a council action motion, it was just discussion.
Yep, okay, great.
Okay. Old business is none. Council reports. As mayor, I will just say that, we met with the, fire board, right? Fire relief, thank you. And we had a good conversation with them. I think we let the fire relief know that we're all in the same position, whether we sounded like it or not at the last meeting. We're all in the same position. We want to see their pension fund safe, secure, maximized. You know, they do a great service for us. They dedicate a lot of time. They volunteer their time. They come out of in all the weather and everything else. So we're going to continue to move forward in that fashion. I thought it was a good discussion that we had. So I was really happy to hear that, to be that. So that's it. Council members, Don,
I'm still with you.
you got anything? It's council report time.
I've been watching you guys for a little while, not speaking at other Zoom meetings. You do pretty well without me.
Okay, Mark.
Okay, no, nothing.
Yeah, I appreciate everybody coming here too, to participate. I really like to see people coming here. It really helps me. So thank you.
Okay. The bottom of your memo or on the agenda, you have your announcements and upcoming meeting dates. There's nothing else. I'll motion to adjourn.
So motion?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you for coming, folks.